Gotta get all snuggly for story time. Heyo, it's Mayo. It's week 6 of quarantine. Woohoo! I've spent 6 full weeks in quarantine now, and I'm here to tell you what I've been up to in the last week. So, as I started telling you guys last week, we were cleaning up the garden and doing a lot of, cleaning around here on my parents' property, and we've been continuing to do cleanup around here, and it's been super productive, and we've gotten a lot done. We finished cleaning up the garden zone, and everything looks great. We also planted some flowers, and we started planting things in the garden. We're going to be planting more things in the garden this week. We're just having a really nice time. My fiance and I have been really enjoying just having this time together before he had to go back to work. So it was just nice to work outside together. The weather has been super, super nice. It was just beautiful spring weather, the kind of weather where you can be outside all day long and it just feels so good. Things were going great up until the point I got stung by a bee. That happened a couple days ago, and I've really just been resting since then. But I'll tell you the story of getting stung by the bee. So before I get into the bee story, I will tell you some fun facts about bees. So if you don't know, or if I haven't mentioned it here on my channel, I really don't know if I've mentioned it here. We have beehives on this property, on my parents' property. My dad beekeeps. So we have 3 hives and we have about 300,000 bees, roughly. And you may think that that's a lot of bees and that's really scary and like, oh my god, you must have tons of bees everywhere. Well, we do. All of our bushes are pretty much jam-packed full of bees. But you would be surprised how docile they are. They're very friendly. They're really generally not aggressive and they don't cause any problems here. What I was gonna share is, if you don't know, bees actually don't usually just sting you for no reason. Bees tend to give you warning signs before they sting you. So some of their warning signs is that they'll physically bump into you. And typically the more that they're bumping you, the more that they're trying to like warn you, and they're getting more aggressive and telling you you need to leave. So if a bee starts bumping into you, they're giving you a warning that they're about to sting you, but they're giving you a chance to leave. So if a bee bumps you, leave. Another thing with bees is that they change pitch when they're irritated. So a happy bee has a lower pitch, or just generally they kind of have a lower tone that's like a buzz. If they're agitated, their tone rises and they're more of a buzz. Probably not the most accurate pitch representation, but you get the idea. So if you hear lower pitched bees, they're probably not agitated. If you hear a higher pitched noise, it means that they're most likely agitated. So if you hear like a really intense buzzing and they're bumping you, then definitely get out of there. Bees are territorial of like their home and their food and stuff. So really, if you're not bothering their territory, they really won't bother you. And if you listen to their warning signs, you kind of earn your respect with the bees. But anyway, on with the bee story. So I was helping my fiance outside. We were, just doing outside work, and I got bumped on the head twice by a bee. Initially, I thought it may be a large fly because it sounded the same, and I waved my hand and the noise stopped, so I'm like, oh, it went away. But then I felt my head and it was still there, like it was on me. So at the point that I realize I have a bug on my head, my instinct is stand up and run. And my idea was maybe if I run, it'll come off of me. Either it's a fly and it'll fly away, or it's a bee and maybe it'll fly off of me, or whatever it is, like it'll just go. I got to the door of our tiny house and I reached up and it was still there. So I didn't want to go inside and bring the bee indoors. So I started shaking my hair and I could still feel that it was in there. And so I ran back towards my fiance and I said, I think there's a bee in my hair. You gotta get it off of me. And at that point, it hadn't stung me yet either. I was just like, oh my god, let's try and get it off. But in the process of him looking for it, I did get stung. It was super windy, and I think the wind was just making it worse and getting it more tangled in my hair. And basically what I pictured was like this tangled bee was like trying to You know, it was just like thrashing around in the wind and stuff. And in that process, it was like stinging me repeatedly. And technically bees aren't supposed to be able to sting you repeatedly, but given the circumstances and the wind and stuff, and it definitely stung me multiple times because there was only one bee in there. And then the last sting really felt like the full sting. It definitely stung me. And at that point, I'm like, you're not finding it in my hair. That really hurt. So I just started sprinting towards our tiny house and, you know, ran 100 feet or whatever. And I'm not someone who runs. If I'm running or if I'm sprinting, something is wrong. And I ran, and I was running so fast that I ran out of my shoes, and my phone like popped out of my pocket, and I didn't even notice that I ran out of my shoes or lost my phone until much later. But anyway, I'm running, and I go to the bathroom, and my instinct is just like, ow, my head hurts and I want to cool it down. So I go to the shower, I put it on as cold as possible, I grab the shower head, and I just start spraying, you know, the area that burns. And I also was thinking maybe I can like spray whatever it is out of my hair. And that logic actually worked, because as soon as I got my hair wet, the bee crawled to the back of my head and he got it. And it didn't have a stinger, so I definitely got stung. So I continued to like spray my head just to cool down the pain, and then my fiance looked for the stinger but couldn't find it. And in the process of that, you know, just the pain was at its most intense point, and I was like, I can't stand here, I want to lay down. So I laid down, I took my antihistamine, which is the medication I take for my mast cell activation syndrome, and I took Benadryl. I took a capsule of, it's not this big, oh my god. I took a gel cap of Benadryl. I opted not to do liquid Benadryl because at that point I wasn't having like anaphylaxis, and I figured if I was gonna have anaphylaxis, it would probably happen like right away, because that's just how I am. I tend to like react instantly. So I wasn't super concerned, and I was like, I want to just do the gel cap, and I wanted to ice my head to get the pain down, which really, really helped. And I got the pain down enough that I was able to get back up, and then I sprayed like Benadryl spray. It's actually for like bug bites or mosquito bites, but it worked really, really well for this. It felt so good. I like doused like this much of my head, just like a whole quarter of my head with Benadryl spray, and it felt fantastic. Doused my head with Benadryl spray, and while I was standing, my fiance noticed he could see a red dot on my head finally. And so he's like, I think that's where the sting is. And he did find the stinger, and he did get that out properly. And then we sprayed more Benadryl, and then I just laid back down and went back to icing my head some more. The stinger was actually pretty big too. I'll put it in a picture here. This is the stinger pulled out. It was pretty big. It was pretty in there. It definitely hurt very bad. I think you would imagine getting stung on the head is quite painful and an instant headache, and it was not fun. I only got stung in a little section like around here, but this entire half of my head just felt like it was on fire. It was just burning pain, which lessened, you know, fairly quickly. It was most intense in the first couple minutes, and then it lessened once the Benadryl and stuff was kicking in, like, you know, 15, 20, 30 minutes later, the pain was coming down significantly. The stinger was in my head though for 15 or 20 minutes because he couldn't find it initially, and then I wanted to lay down and ice my head and rest for a little bit before he went back to searching, because it was very painful, him searching through my hair. So yeah, the stinger was in me longer. Once the stinger came out, the pain went down a lot. Thankfully, we were even able to find the stinger and get it out. It's kind of like a needle in a haystack kind of thing, finding a stinger in someone's hair. That's crazy. Like I said, my reaction was average for the amount of stings I got and the location and all of the things, which was a huge relief to us. The last time, and really the only time I ever remember being stung by a bee, was when I was like 10 or 12, and I got stung right on the tip of my thumb. And I didn't have a bad reaction to it. It was totally average. But as you all know, I got sick when I was 14, and a lot of my health has changed since then. So we've really genuinely feared what a bee sting would do to me. It was actually really reassuring and validating to see that I had a normal reaction, even when I got stung multiple times, and in a really inconvenient place too. Being stung on the head sucked. But yeah, all in all, it was just a huge relief that I didn't have like a crazy bad reaction to it. Really, initially, just the initial pain was the worst, and then the panic and stress and adrenaline of the whole thing just wiped out my system, which isn't uncommon for people. Like when you go into fight or flight, for that reaction to kind of set you back a bit. I've been in fight or flight and in adrenaline states enough times to know how it affects me. After my adrenaline starts to come down, it makes me nauseous, it makes me kind of dizzy and lightheaded, kind of tingly, and it usually just makes me really tired afterwards. So I've just been resting the last couple days and kind of recharging from the whole thing, just taking it easy. I had a scab come off of the sting about 2 days after it happened. The bump is pretty much non-existent today. Yesterday it was pretty small, but it's pretty much gone now. It's really just, I threw my neck out because all the stings were right here. So normally I sleep on both of my sides during the night. I kind of like roll and flip over. And that entire first 24 hours, I could only lay on one side. I couldn't even lay on my back because the pressure would get too close to the spot. So laying on one side for an entire 24 hours really like threw my neck out, I think. So I've had like neck aches, headaches the last couple days. But you know, it is what it is. It's pretty mild. The bee sting was definitely not fun and an unexpected turn to my week, but it actually ended up being a really validating experience. It gave me more confidence and less fear about the future, or like the possibility of getting more stings or something, and to find out that I'm stronger than I thought I was. Other than that, my fiance left this morning for work. He's working his EMT ambulance job for a couple days, and then we will quarantine away from each other for a week after he gets back, just like we did last time. And so that is what it is. But we definitely did really enjoy and appreciate our time together that we did have. That is pretty much this week's video. That's a little story time of what I went through this week and the bee sting story. I've noticed a lot of people are starting to kind of hit the wall with quarantine, like it's starting to get old and they're burning out on stuff. So I hope everyone's doing all right and still continuing to find ways to stay happy and stay connected with the people that they love, staying healthy, taking care of yourself. I will be back next week to update you on week 7. Oh, it's never ending. Classic Mayo.